Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be speaking in English in this debate-like session. Welcome to the Cultural Investment Conference in Riyadh. Our debate today asks who funds a culture and who gets heard. As culture becomes an investable asset worldwide, we must ask always, does capital follow markets, or does it have a responsibility to support diverse and authentic voices? We are honored to have 5 remarkable speakers with us today. I think Tumi has introduced everyone, so let's get on with our session. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. To start off, in one line each, where is cultural capital flowing today, and who holds the most influence in deciding which stories or voices are amplified? Markets, governments, etc. Evan, let's begin with you from a finance side.
Yeah, from the finance, capital can flow from different places. It could come from government, it could come from investors, but cultural capital usually comes from the artists. So your capital could come, from lots of different sources, but that elite culture and that cultural capital that you want to produce with that capital oftentimes comes from strange places, usually the artists, which means it's not controllable.
Amazing. Mish'al, do you see how, let me ask you this question. Do you see the flow going differently from an investor's perspective?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think it's very important to understand that I'm going to speak specifically from our part of the world because this is a place that's near and dear to my heart. There is a lot of drive by the governments here to help create cultural experiences, help create an awareness about culture, but I think there's something that's being picked up by some of the family businesses, which is very important, and I think we should be doing much more, which is where family businesses become patrons of the art and help support, bring more ideas into this part of the world to highlight and showcase what we can do in this part of the world, not just from a financial perspective, but also from a cultural, to make people really understand who we are as people and what do we bring to this world of culture.
Amazing. Martin, what about through branding and partnerships?
So I can really only speak to UK experience today. So in the UK, in fact, at the heart of the UK's cultural success is a hybrid funding model. 1/3 public investment, 1/3 box office, and 1/3 made up of philanthropy, sponsorship, brand involvement, and commercial income. Now, public investment is the foundation. It drives both inclusion and innovation, and it makes sure everybody sees themselves in cultural life while underwriting the risk of bold new creative ideas. But here's the challenge, and this is I think what you were referring to. Public investment is being squeezed all over the world, and philanthropy, including commercially driven and philanthropically driven corporate sponsorships, corporate partnerships, are a more important part of the model than ever. And we need to look urgently at new sources of this kind of private investment. And I do believe that the corporate sector could hold the key.
Amazing, Martin. Thank you. Dr. Ahmed, how does this look from an artist's lens?
Yeah, for me, I think the issue of funding culture will come to the main question: who really own culture? Is it the government? Is it the public body? Is it the private good? Is it the artist itself? I think this, if we try to find the answer of this question, or is it something that we share between audiences, between artists and creators, between the public and private goods together, then we'll understand how we treat this culture, either as a commodity or either as something that economically or artistically we can find the new models, and these new models should be very, very, very alert to this variety of a new model. That's a big, for me as an artist, sometimes I struggle to treat my artwork as a commodity, or it's about its history, its art background, it's a story that grow, and its value that will grow sometimes or steady sometimes. It's depending on many things together.
Amazing. We'll turn to Mr. Abdullah. Abdullah, finally, from your perspective in the digital space, what do you think?
I think what's interesting is that from a digital perspective, you see that culture is being redefined at such a fast iteration cycle. What voices are heard are usually based on the demand that we see, and those change from one period to the other. Historically, when you see something that was set in space for a few years, now what we see on Snapchat in the digital world, we see it being redefined depending on the year, on the period, etc., which is redefining where, if I were to put it from a Snapchat perspective, if attention was the commodity that determines what culture is, that commodity is being traded on digital platforms.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, the debate is going very well. All agreeing. So we see power across financial markets, family businesses, partnerships, artists, and platforms. My second question would be, should funding follow audience demand and commercial viability, or should it support underrepresented voices that may not be profitable but are necessary? So I'll start with Mish'al from an investor's perspective again. How do you weigh ROI versus representation today?
Sadly, the world of art is split to two. I say sadly because one part of it is something I really don't support. Yeah. The other part I do support. The one that I don't support is buying art for the sake of financial gains. Because a lot of people do that, and when they look and say, this is worth something, and you go, no, it shouldn't be worth dollars and cents, or riyals and halalas. It should be what it speaks to you. The art itself should be something that you see, I'm going to just follow up with what the doctor had mentioned. When I acquire a piece of art, it's not an intangible thing. It's a spiritual thing that I'm getting, something that's talking to me, something that affects my inner soul, something that I feel a privilege. It's an honor to have this piece of work from this artist. It's not me acquiring a car. A car doesn't mean anything. Forgive me if you're car lovers, but a car doesn't mean anything. But a piece of art, that's the time and effort and energy put in bringing an idea that's in somebody's head with his or her soul into that piece, and for that should be what it should be valued at. Now, we can't value this purely from a spiritual perspective, although I'd like that to be the case. There is a dollar and cent, what you call it, that goes with it. That's what I said. I don't like that aspect of it. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm buying something because I feel a connection with it. Okay. And when I feel a connection, this is what makes me want to aspire to get more and more of these things. How I interact with it, this is where the value comes.
Okay. All right. It is what it is. Evan, how do financial models balance these trade-offs?
Yeah, I can speak from my perspective. I oversee the largest art fund in the world. So I do agree mostly that art is driven more by cultural capital and influence, the value of it, rather than dollars and cents. With that said, one way that we've structured, at least on the private side, a way to maximize cultural capital, we own about $1.5 billion worth of art that's owned by 100,000 small investors. We then send these works of art into museums around the world and let the public see these works to enhance the provenance of the art. These works will be sold, and there will be a tangible, hopefully, return for those small investors who've both have the cultural capital of knowing they own a small piece of this work, but also the tangible capital that we can hopefully return to them.
Amazing. Martin, let me turn to you. Can partnerships step in where commercial ROI is weak?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, going back to the model that exists in the UK, corporate sponsorship and support already plays a really big part of the cultural ecology in the UK. And what drives that corporate support is a belief in the softer aspects of culture, the education, the outreach, the spiritual side that you were talking about, the softer parts. And I think corporates are often as mission-driven as the arts organizations themselves to share the joy and the wonder and all of the wonderful benefits of the art. So the short answer is yes. I gave a long answer, but the short answer is yes.
There you go. All right. Let me turn to Abdullah from Snapchat. As platforms track what's trending, do they amplify diversity or risk reinforcing bias? You have to be honest with me.
If I look at the recent studies that the demand from the users is for more authentic local voices, okay. Right? Algorithms in general they tend to prioritize stuff that appeals to the masses, right? But I feel this goes into cycles in the sense that you see that mass content is popular for a period of time. However, it is authentic content and cultural relevant content that sustains for a longer period of time. And that's what we have seen moving forward, because as the world becomes more accessible through digital platforms, people look more for niche, personalized cultural aspects that are different from your vanilla type of flavor.
Okay, so it's not really a guy behind the desk pushing people to
No.
explore. This is very important for people to know. So, Dr. Ahmed, have you felt the pressure? I want to end this question with you. Have you felt the pressure to adapt your work for funding?
Okay.
At any point in your life?
Yeah. Look, when it's in a two-way. When you want to do a
It looks like you're
research-
trying to make the answer very nice. You can tell me the truth.
Actually, every artist will find the struggle, especially when he wants to follow his way in funding. Usually funding comes sometimes with a direction, but it come for me that, especially when it's about the capital, there is a very interesting book that I go through about funding or about, it's called Cool Capitalism. And it's talk about culture as a new way of investment. And the problem, it's by, I think, by Tim McKagan, and it really explains our today problem of finding fund, and the fund come for direction, especially that I will fund this for this reason. Artist has to follow. This is something I think, from my answer will be, let's think about a new model of investing in art. Let's think about a new model. We live in still classical model. So this is my answer.
Okay. We'll keep it at that. All right. The big question, ladies and gentlemen, can cultural investment scale without flattening diversity? And now we move on to the next debatable question. Hopefully you guys can debate. You're agreeing all the time. But how should we design investment models that deliver not just returns, but also representation, preservation, and inclusion? We'll start with Martin.
Yeah, thank you. And I will come back to...
Let me just rephrase the question so I can make it more specified.
Yeah.
What have you seen in Europe, Martin, that balances ROI with inclusion today?
So, okay. First of all, I think the funding model, that hybrid funding model that mixes, that exists in the UK, is it's a really positive model. You have the public investment that funds inclusion and creative risk-taking. That drives box office, that drives commercial return. But it's still not enough. So we have to also engage with philanthropy in the corporate sector and business partnerships. And those three elements are absolutely in very lively, entrepreneurial, dynamic, commercial dialogue.
Yeah.
But the foundation is that public investment that allows for inclusion and for creative innovation. Now, the very specific example that I have seen, it's going back a little bit, but there was a foreign exchange company called Travelex. And when I used to work at the National Theatre in London, they sponsored this scheme to make all of the tickets £10. And by doing that, they promoted the Travelex brand, which went on to have a flotation on the stock market. And also, occupancy in the National Theatre went from 60% to 90%. The audience age reduced, it became younger, and it became more diverse. And that is exactly that model, those three elements working in very active, lively dialogue. It was a long answer, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. We have time. Evan, what financial structures, funds, or guarantees could embed inclusivity today?
It's a paradoxical question because we've seen throughout history public funding of the arts oftentimes is a first step. We saw it in France in the 19th century. We saw it in the United States in the 20th century. In the 21st century, you're going to see it here in Saudi Arabia. But your artists need to have the room to be subversive. They need to have the room to have an independence streak because the influence and the cultural capital And what people will follow is going to come from strange places. They're going to come from different voices. They're going to come from artists that are not publicly funded, but capture people's imagination. So the public funding is there to hopefully get the flywheel spinning. But unless you let your artists breathe and you create a sense of competition and freedom for these artists to have authentic voices, I think you're going to not get the type of creative system you want.
Amazing. Good answer. Mishal, I want to go back to the family business, and I want to ask you, do they play a special long-term role here, or no?
We should. We should play that role. You have many families over here. One thing I will say, that why we should be funding and supporting and helping the artists, and not demanding and dictating to the artists what to draw. But I say, here's your freedom, create something, because you are part and parcel of this region. You're going to bring different parts, you're going to show and showcase different parts of what is us. So I shouldn't be putting you in a little box. I should be saying, okay, how much do you need? Here's a stipend. Go and create, go and do. Help reflect us, because we're not being reflected at all. I'm just going to divert it for a few minutes, if you don't mind. If you look into the 1500s and 1400s and 1600s in Europe, you had pictures of cows. And I've always wondered, why the hell would you paint a cow? And then then somebody told me, because that's their wealth. That's their heritage. That is what is important. Today you take a picture of your car, your house, etc. But I don't have that. Not cows. I don't want to take drawings of cows. But with drawings that reflect our society, our culture, our heritage, there isn't anything that shows this. I want the artist to showcase this. And for me to sit and tie his hands down by saying you're going to draw this specific thing or that specific thing, I think is wrong. So we as families, we have a very important role to play to say, you know what, we have a lot of money. We have money from businesses. I need the artist to help reflect us, our culture, our image. What do people see us? How do we see ourselves? And not tie his or her hand and let them have the joy of creating what comes from their mind and soul. This is very important, and I think this is the role families and individuals, rich individuals, should play.
Speaking of that, Dr. Ahmed, what model, I know you want to interrupt.
Yeah,
but I'll just direct a question to you.
Yeah.
Maybe it will help. What model would you like to see that supports authenticity?
Yeah, I think to support authenticity and the art as an identity of its genus loci or place, I think thinking about art and culture as a beyond economical first, as a one big, because art, culture is something ordinary of our life. It can be like a health. We need a very healthy, well-being culture and life and people and things. This will flourish, all economy around it. So I think it's also a big picture, first things, as a high level. Art and culture as a basic human need. Then after that, we can come to all of these new models of economical reason. Art can be an art market. I'm not against art market. I'm not against museum, not against private, but how can we find the right model that not fixed, that changed with the change of the needs? Digital art, Snapchat, all of this, it's the reality of a future. Let's follow the future. Let's be part of the change. So I think this is the way, the model that I think we should be. Art has to be updated before things.
Got it. Speaking of the future, Abdullah, should cultural funding strategies include digital metrics like reach, views, or engagement alongside financial ROI? And how could that change investment decisions today?
So, absolutely. And I think maybe let's look at the full chain, right? I think what we're going through in Saudi right now is a massive accelerated journey of bringing out culture to the front and center of the local markets and the global markets, right? So there is a big educational leap and journey that everybody needs to go on to understand the value of what that culture is and to understand the journey that artists go through in creating that culture. I think one interesting experiment that we saw on Snapchat is some global artists like Jeff Koons or Damien Hirst, they use the platform to talk to the audience around their journey. So now rather than it being a one-to-one relationship, all of a sudden you have a platform where you can talk to millions of people about what this piece of art means to you and what it means to them. and build that emotional journey with them. So from an awareness perspective, you can use this powerful tool at your disposal to build. And then from an ROI and a financial perspective, you can start optimizing on who are the people who actually care about this, and how do you make sure that you maximize the opportunities that are available for artists and that can later on contribute back to the economy.
Amazing. So it is not just about money in, but what voices and legacies are carried forward. Amazing. To close, I'd like to ask each of our speakers for let's call it a rapid fire pledge. In 15 seconds for each of the speakers, which one action you commit that ensures culture thrives with both today investment and authenticity. We will start with the far right. What is your right? Dr. Ahmed, let's do it.
Which I think...
one action, 15 seconds. I'm trying to make this a debate, but it's not happening.
Yes.
Take your time. We have how,
no. Actually, I think the energetic time that we live, not only in Saudi Arabia, worldwide. Saudi Arabia is a big example of young generation that want to jump to future in a very fast way. This is a big momentum for people here and also worldwide to imbalance. But at the same time, we are beyond globalization now. We are in a more, especially in philosophy. So how can we keep both identity, because diversity also important, and the same time of connecting to the world. So I think what I see today of energetic movement worldwide toward much better future is what's matter. Let's culture spoke. We need more culture than any time before for more peaceful time, more connectivity with better situation. Like the world now is not in the best situation. So let's culture spoke. Let's raise culture up and try to make people in better situation. It's the time young generation around the world have a good voice, and I think we should really be more positive and optimistic more than anything.
Amazing. Martin, you seem like you agree with
I do. I really agree, and I think it is so much about the young people. So in the UK, lots of arts, most, if not all arts organisations have a big education and a community outreach programme. To maintain and expand those programmes, they need money. Public money is declining because of tough financial situation. So I set up a new venture called Cultural Capital Partners with my business partner, Elliot, who's in the audience today. And what we want to do is to use corporate sponsorship naming rights to give long-term, large-scale funding for arts organisations in the UK so that they can carry on having social impact in their communities, developing the voices of young and new artists, and making sure that all young people have access to the arts. So that is I feel very inspired now. So that's my action.
Great. Mr. Mish'al, تفضل.
I will continue following the pledge I pledged a long time ago, and I will continue to do it, which is trying to find as many regional artists and try to promote their work, because it's very important for them to have a voice and for them to be seen and heard. This is something that, again, if I was to rely on others from the outside part of the outside world, they wouldn't be getting so much that privilege. It's everyone. There are a very small amount of artists that get the privilege of being supported on a global scale, but from a local scale, this is very important. Again, as a family member in a family business, and as a person who really appreciates the hard work that the artists put in, I will try to support as many artists as I can who are young, who are trying to build a name for themselves.
Amazing. My pledge would be, as I go after Mish'al, investment is not only about money, but about power, responsibility, and inclusivity. Evan, what would you say?
Yeah, I think if you look at the last 150 years, almost every major art movement was disagreeable. It actually got its name initially as a pejorative term. So I would pledge, if a work of art or an artist movement, if I find it disagreeable or offensive or subversive, I should look at it more closely because maybe it's important.
Yes.
I think for us as an organization, when we decided to expand into Saudi, our main pledge was there is a creative community here that needs nurturing and that can contribute a lot to our platform on a global level. That creative community is not limited to content creators. It's also artists and voices of culture that we see across all facets of the culture of Saudi society, and we want to contribute more and more to that. A personal pledge for me is to do a joint project with Dr. Ahmed, inshallah, on Snapchat very soon.
Amazing.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right, so let's ensure that culture is funded at scale, equity, and authenticity remain at the heart. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a good lesson for the healthiest debate you will ever see. Our speakers, thank you so much. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job. You did a great job.